Hello, everyone, and welcome to Burn the Ship, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs go all in on their business, and we introduce them to professionals that can help them to do so. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Payne. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. I definitely appreciate that. Now, go ahead and introduce yourself and the name of your business to the show.
So, first of all, thank you for the invitation. Yes, I am Dr. Payne. I am Karmen EAP International.
Awesome, awesome. Now, we definitely understand that time is one of our most valuable resources. So let's jump into things and tell us a little bit about your journey.
All right. So, it all started because I wanted to major in pedagogy.
Okay.
And I started college. And at that point, the teacher gave me an assignment to be able to go to observe a classroom. I decided to observe the classroom of one of my cousins in a
Mm-hmm.
kindergarten. So after that, during the classroom, the teacher got upset because my cousin was not paying attention. She got to my cousin's little desk and she turned her ring around and bopped her on the head.
Oh, my
I
goodness.
realized that yeah, I know. I realized something's not right with this picture. I
Yeah.
wanted to figure out what was going on. I went to the superintendent with her just to file a complaint as well as to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And the outcome was that we realized that she was completely deaf.
Oh, okay.
So now I understood what was going on. I helped her to get some hearing aid, and I realized that I like problem solving.
Awesome.
At that point, I changed my major to psychology.
Okay, okay.
I did my I did my BA in Hawaii, and I decided to get married and to a Marine, which that's a whole nother story.
I gotcha.
And then he was transferred to California, and this is where I am.
Okay.
I got pregnant and I was in the process of a divorce, and I realized, you know what? I need to get a job.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was already starting my master's at that point. I saw an ad for a receptionist with a psychologist. I went to interview, and he told me, "You're overqualified. This is
Oh my
not going to work." But
goodness.
I told you what? My wife is working in this place that's called an EAP, an Employee Assistance Program, and they're
Mm-hmm.
looking for a bilingual counselor. Would you be interested? I said, "Yep." So I went to interview and I got the job. And after a couple of years there, I'm going, I wonder if I can just kind of do this on my own. But
Mm-hmm.
I was not ready to jump, so I needed a parachute.
I gotcha.
At that point, I saw an ad for an EAP, an internal EAP at St. Mary Medical Center in Long Beach.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed and I got the job. And then I developed their employee assistance program. I realized I'm able to do this on my own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So then I founded Karmen EAP International in 1992.
In 1992. Now, tell us, I got a couple questions based off of what you shared. What's the second language that you speak?
Spanish.
Spanish? So you are Spanish speaking from Hawaii.
Well, I was raised in Puerto Rico.
Okay. I was trying to check. You see, I was trying to figure that out. I said, okay, now, first of all, she's out there in paradise, but she said she spoke two languages. I said, I wonder what that language is. I was just trying to see how that connection went. Did you move out there when you were super young or something like that?
Oh, well, that's a whole nother story. So I was born in Puerto Rico because my mom wanted to have me there. At 3 months old, we were sent, well, she went back to New York. So I
Okay.
was raised in New York until I was about 10. At that
Mm-hmm.
point, one day, my dad was upset with his job and he says, "We're moving to Puerto Rico tomorrow."
Okay.
And at 10 years old, I moved to Puerto Rico. And then at about 16, I moved to Hawaii.
Okay, awesome, awesome. I definitely appreciate that journey, explaining that part because I was trying to figure out the foundation of how we got there. So now you looked at the ad and you got the employment engagement internal wise. Now, and you said I'm about to go and do this on my own. In many of these interviews, there was an event that happened that made you burn your ship and go all in on your business because you had the idea but something happened to make you go ahead and do it. Do you mind sharing with us what that was that made you say, I'm going all in?
So initially, when we started with the EAP, when I went to the interview of the psychologist's wife,
Mm-hmm.
so I worked there for several years, and at one point I realized, wait a minute, I'm doing a lot of the work, and he's making a lot of the money, and he owned the plane, and I'm
Okay.
going, I want to own a plane.
Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
So then, like I said, I wanted to know if I could do this on my own, but I wasn't ready to burn the ship quite yet. I needed a
Yes.
parachute.
Yes. Yes.
So that's when, fortunately, I saw this ad for the internal EAP, and then I realized, no, I can really do this on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I said, okay, let's go on and jump.
Okay.
And let's go on and be able to do this on my own and get the full benefit of the
Yes.
income.
I get it. I get it. Compensation. Compensation is definitely a reason to get on out there and get it done. Especially if you're doing all the work anyway. Why not get the benefits of it all? So you decide to jump out there. I want you to tell us all about what it is that you're doing, so the people that are watching can have an idea of who to refer over to you. What is it that you're doing? How are you helping?
So that's several things. I'm going to start with an employee assistance program is sort of an extension of organizational psychology, what we used to call organizational psychology.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what we provide is short-term counseling and consultation for any problems that the individual may be facing, whether it's work related or personal. So that's part of what we provide, as well as psychotherapy for trauma, for substance abuse, for any other issues that the person may be experiencing. And along with that, if the person is open to it, we also provide hypnotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
So, for smoking cessation, for traumas, for substance abuse, for performance, weight loss, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in additional to that, crisis intervention and stress debriefing. So, if a company is experiencing whether it's a robbery, a sudden death, a crisis of some sort, then we will be able to go in and provide that crisis intervention for that organization.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
provide seminars on about 60 different topics,
Okay.
whether
Okay.
it's stress management, conflict resolution, um, effective management strategies. And part of what many companies have to provide right now is alcohol and substance abuse reasonable suspicion training.
Okay.
So
Okay.
many organizations are required to provide that.
I gotcha. Is it a where you provide this for all industries? I know we talked about Department of Transportation. Is that your main industry that you're looking to provide this service for, or tell us a little bit about that?
So when it comes to the short-term counseling, the consultation, psychotherapy, all of that crisis intervention is for any industry across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a separate part of what I provide is what you're talking about, which is substance abuse evaluation for the Department of Transportation under 49 CFR Part 40. That applies to truck drivers, railroad, train conductors, FTA, airline pilots, Coast Guard, pipeline and management, hazard management. So all of those organizations fall under the umbrella of DOT. So
Okay.
I'm one of the few that federally is able to provide the substance abuse evaluation for those individuals.
Okay. Now, is that something? I know you're in California, but you can do that. You do that all over the country, or do you just focus on that one geographical area?
It could be across the country because now we're talking about the federal government.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when an individual is, for the most part, FMCSA, which is the truck drivers. So
Mm-hmm.
the truck drivers are the biggest umbrella of the Department of Transportation when it comes to 49 CFR Part 40. So
Okay.
what happens is that if those individuals test positive for alcohol or drugs, then they have to go through the STEP process in order to be able to once again perform safety sensitive duties. If they
Okay.
don't go through this process, they will no longer be able to provide any kind of safety sensitive duties under the federal government across the United States.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. So that's very important because without our truckers, it's going to be tough to get these goods around the country. So that's a magnificent service that you're providing there. Um, Now, with us, we do a lot of networking, and we are always out meeting business owners, business representatives, and what I want to talk about now are referral partners who can possibly send you over opportunities because you've done a great job of creating the framework of what you do. I want to see who's a good connector of opportunities for you so I can send them over your way. Who sends you over those opportunities?
So it could be any organization that deals with the trucking industry.
Okay.
So whether it's a small mom and pop, it could be a good big organization that deals with trucking industry. It could be any airport, for example, that has to
Mm-hmm.
deal with FAA. So all of the organizations, as well as, like I indicated, with any organization that is having some struggles, whether it's with their employees and they're not quite sure what's really going on internally, we could go in and do an evaluation and then provide consultation as to how to go on and change the culture within that organization.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the engagement because what I want the audience to know is the experience that they will receive when they bring you on to provide that service. Is it one where, okay, they sign up with you and then you stick with them for a day, a week, a month, continuous? How does that look like if I were to engage you for your service?
So it really depends on what the need is. It could
Mm-hmm.
be short term counseling, for example, as simple as 3 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not a major critical issues that they're experiencing, and it could be simply short term counseling. If
Mm-hmm.
the organization is simply needing some consultation, it could be just a 1 hour or 1 day consultation.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're needing any type of seminar, for example, or training in any area, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to assess what kind of training, what kind of seminar would best fit their need, and then we could go on and design a seminar that will provide the service that would be most beneficial for them.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. It's not really a combo A, B, or C. You make it specific to what that need is, and then you provide the service from there. So it's where you customize it. It's not 1 day, 2 day. It all depends on what they need.
Now, when it comes to the STAP, the substance abuse evaluation under DOT, there is
Mm-hmm.
a specific federal process that needs to take place.
Okay.
So now let's go on and give you a little idea of what that means.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that has to happen is that when the individual tests positive for alcohol or drugs, they need to enter in what's called the clearinghouse under the Department of Transportation. They didn't have this clearinghouse until a couple of years ago. So what did that meant that if an individual, a truck driver, tested
Mm-hmm.
positive for alcohol or drug, they could leave that company and then sneakily work with another company and be hired
Yes.
because there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a connection. So
Right.
now there's a clearinghouse that every single company must check before hiring an individual.
Mm-hmm.
So once that individual enters the clearinghouse, let's say that they're going to select me. They go into the clearinghouse, they select Karmen EAP International, Dr. Payne as their SAP. The federal government, the clearinghouse sends me an alert. I accept that case. And then at that point, the individual goes into my website where it has all of the necessary forms that they're going to have to complete. They complete the forms. I need a copy of the positive test result because I need to know what they tested positive for,
Mm-hmm.
what type of services they're going to need. So at that point, now they complete all the forms, and now I do an evaluation. And the DOT, you have to do an initial evaluation. It used to be that we didn't have to even recommend any kind of treatment. Now every individual needs to have a treatment, and that's where I recommend the course of treatment. They
Mm-hmm.
complete that course of treatment, and then I do a follow-up evaluation and see whether or not they learned their lesson. Because my goal under DOT is to make sure that the public is safe. So safety is the priority when it comes to the Department of Transportation. So I do the initial evaluation. I recommend the treatment. I do the follow-up evaluation. Then I have to recommend a testing plan that must be abided by when it comes to the company. So now I send the information to the company wherever they tested positive. I send them the initial evaluation, follow up evaluation, and testing plan. That
Mm-hmm.
individual can only be what's called the DIRT, the designated employer representative for that company. So I send them that information, and now they have to follow the testing plan. Under the Department of Transportation, they have to do a minimum of 6 tests during a 12-month period after they get back to work, resume safety sensitive duties. And that return to duty test has to be observed. So
Okay.
when they go into a lab, they have to have an individual of same sex that literally observes that fluid
Tests.
is coming out of
Yes.
their body.
Yes, yes. Is that those are six just random tests? You give them like, hey, be there in 24 hours, or they say, hey, you got one on May, June, July, August, whatever, or because I'm figuring if they're in the program, they did something that wasn't right, so I figured it would be random. Is that would be assumed to be true?
There's a difference between random and follow-up. So
Okay.
yes, there's random testing that all of the individuals within the federal DOT government have to have. And then
Mm-hmm.
in this case, it's called a follow-up testing. So once I provide that follow-up testing plan to the employer, to the designated employer representative of the company, which is
Mm-hmm.
the person in charge of safety, now they decide when they're going to send this individual for that minimum of 6. But it could be a
Okay.
maximum of 5 years. I tend to go more towards the 5 year plan. But then
Okay.
I go on and decrease the amount of times that that individual has to do testing. It's
Mm-hmm.
easy normally to what I call white knuckle it for about a
Yes.
year, right?
Yes.
Because you
Yes.
haven't had enough challenges in your life. But
Mm-hmm.
after that, then sort of you begin to slip, especially during holidays and birthdays and those type of things, summertime. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is when we recommend that they really try to amp up most of the testing.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate you explaining that. It's some of those things that are happening behind the scenes that we have no idea about because we understand that substance abuse is a huge thing here in the United States. And I guess I didn't think about how it applies to truckers as well or Department of Transportation as well. And it's really important because when I was driving into the office, I definitely saw a bunch of 18 wheelers. So it's good that you have that service to help them to get past those issues that they've had. And
And the
what?
benefit is that they
Go ahead. No, go
I'd
ahead.
say that the benefit is that they used to just be terminated, but then the federal government realized that if we terminate all of these individuals, we're going to be really short on truckers.
Yes.
So that's when they decided to be able to provide the service and give them an opportunity to learn and change their ways, if you will, and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that the public is safe in the process.
Makes tons of sense. I definitely appreciate you sharing that about creating the framework of what it is that you're doing, giving us highlights on the particular process, especially when it comes to the Department of Transportation, and letting us know how you're there to help them. Now, you've been in business for a while, you have worked for a few different companies, been to school, and I am confident that you have acquired and nurtured some business skills or best practices that you can share with the audience that is watching today. Do you mind sharing with us some of those skills that you have acquired and nurtured over time?
I think the first one is making sure that you actually listen to what the need is. Oftentimes we get so focused and assume, and you know what assuming does, right? Of
It
what the
does.
individual needs rather than to actually ask, what is it that you're really looking for? What's the outcome that you're trying to achieve? And then use whatever those skills are, services that you're able to provide in order to be able to meet the person where they're at, not where you want them to be.
Yes, yes. An empathetic ear is very important. We were just reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and they talked a huge section in one of those habits where, seek to understand before you are wanting to be understood. And it seems like it's highly important in your industry because, especially when you talk about that Department of Transportation, because they had a problem and you're just trying to really get down to the root of how you can help them, and you can't do that without listening. So that's a very important skill to share there. I truly do appreciate that. Letting people know how important that is. Now, we've talked a lot about business, what you do, some of the experiences that you have, but I always like the audience to let them know that you are a human still. You're not just a doctor, you're just not a seminar provider. So let's just say that you have grown the business to the point where you have helped all the truckers and all the other employment engagements, and you have time and money is not a factor. What is it that Dr. Payne would do with her time?
I think that's where my mantra comes into play.
Okay.
I decided to establish my mission statement many moons ago, and it says to utilize my strength and knowledge to encourage others to search for wisdom and utilize such wisdom for the purpose of enhancing the human race in all aspects of life.
Awesome.
So that is basically my goal is if I don't need any income, if you will, then
Mm-hmm.
to be able to look at moments and times when you're able to be of service. I
Okay.
am one of those individuals that I could be in a grocery store line, and inevitably individuals will turn to me and tell me how their day was. And I'm going, I'm not doing counseling right now. I'm just trying
Yes.
to buy some groceries,
Right,
but I
right.
tend to give that energy where individuals feel comfortable.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with having a life of service because ultimately, everyone needs to be pulled up at some point. I'm sure there were times in your journey that you just needed someone to be there to help you, if nothing else, just to be a sounding board. And that is awesome that that is just your life. That's your makeup to be there to help. Because I've asked people this question a lot and they'll say, hey, look, I'll fly across the world or I'll go to Barbados, whatever that is. But your focus, even after you've made it all big and all those things, is still to help and pull people up. That's very important.
And yeah, I don't say that I don't want to travel because that's one of the reasons that I actually still work is
Uh
that
huh.
I really enjoy traveling and experiencing different countries. And then one of the features that I have on my website is to be able to provide some of these services at a low cost. So
Mm-hmm.
I have what's called a $25 quick advice.
Okay.
So for $25, the individual can go and there's a specific little contact that they can complete the form. And then I'm able to provide some quick advice. It's not counseling, but at
Mm-hmm.
least it's quick advice for whatever issues may be pressuring them at that specific moment in time.
Oh, makes sense. Now I'm gonna drop back just a second. So you said you do like to travel. What
Yes,
is that next destination that you have on the list?
Uruguay.
Okay, nice, nice. Is it the culture down there? You have family down there. What made you so excited about that?
Well, that was pre-pandemic. I was already
Okay.
scheduled to go to Uruguay,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple of weeks before that, they just said, "Hey, guess what? You're not coming." So it's still on
Yes.
my bucket list for this year.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm sure that's going to be a magnificent time. And there's nothing wrong with checking off one of those things that you worked hard for and get a chance to enjoy. So you got to follow back up with me and let me know how that trip went. Now, the people that are watching today, you have talked about the employment engagement. You've talked a lot about how you're helping those businesses that deal with the DOT. What would be the best way for someone to get in contact with you if they had additional questions about your service or those skills that you provide?
They can contact me through LinkedIn, Karmen
Mm-hmm.
EAP, or they can go directly to my website at karmeneap.com.
Okay, awesome. Everyone that's watching today, please reach out to Dr. Payne. It's one of those things where she provides a unique service. This is the first time I've heard about this particular service. So I know it could be where others haven't heard about it as well. So please reach out to her if you're in need of that. And Dr. Payne, we truly do appreciate you coming on today, sharing. I know there's a few more stories that you said you could share, especially as you were getting started in your journey there, because you was like, that's a whole nother story. So I definitely want you to come back and we'll talk about that at another time. But we want to honor our guests by giving them the last word. So please look into the camera and tell everybody something good.
I just want everyone to know where they are. I always encourage journaling. That's one of my biggest things. So if you're facing any challenges in your life, I encourage you to journal for at least 30 days. Then look through that journal. That will give you a better understanding of what you're really facing. Do you have the skills necessary? Do you have the resource? Do you have the support that is necessary? And if you don't, then what is it that you need in order to be able to get your life back on track? So I really wish you the best, but in order for you to understand what does that mean for you, you need to understand what are the true challenges you're going through.
Awesome, awesome. Magnificent advice from a very wise woman. You guys pay attention to what she shared. And thank you so much for coming on the show today.
You're very welcome.
And to everyone that is watching, be kind and thanks.
Have a